Howdy
Hey,
all. Eck will be here in a few moments. It is a rainy Friday in Buffalo, and we're going to talk about some games from last night and sort of maybe preview the weekend. But have to start with this because, and we've directed our commentary about like the American presidential election away. Haven't commented a lot on it because I think our feelings have been pretty well known that we all think Donald Trump is a big stiff and a moron. And if you needed proof of that, last night was proof positive. There is a tradition in U.S. politics. It's called the Al Smith dinner. Al Smith was a former presidential candidate I believe in the 20s, and he was a Catholic. He was the first Catholic presidential nominee. And they have this Catholic
did they
dinner.
say back then they would never nominate a Catholic president?
Something like that. I mean, I heard some reference to the fact that if Al Smith had won the presidency, that kids would not be able to take Bibles into schools, or some ridiculous thing like that. I mean, it's amazing how much progress we've made in 100 years.
Yeah,
And then John Kennedy was the first Catholic president in
right.
1960. But and they shot him for it probably.
Yeah.
But so it's a tradition after the debates that the Republican and the Democratic presidential candidate will go to this Al Smith dinner, and the dinner is basically let's have let's be nice, at least, jab at each other, but be pleasant and be humorous, and after all this serious stuff, we'll just sort of clean the slate a little bit.
Right.
That's been the tradition since the dinner started. I think it was in 1960 that it started. Well, last night, Mr. Trump decided that he was going to go left when he should have gone right, because he decided to actually slam Hillary Clinton at the Al Smith dinner for being anti-Catholic. Russ, it boggles the mind how ridiculous this guy is.
He's trying to play to a certain demographic in the voting audience, and it's the wrong place to do it.
There aren't that many morons in the United States.
But the thing is, his time to do it was at the debate. When he lost the debate, you don't get to make it up there and not show decorum. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Just touching on other sports for a second. I don't know if I want to go into the whole Josh Brown thing, but the NFL continues to like get mud in their face.
I'll
And
just I'll say this because I'm close to the area where a lot of it's going on. Have we heard anything about Roger Goodell's opinion on this?
no, nothing.
No.
The NFL has been deadly silent on this, and this is
That's
the thing.
bad.
You would think, and this is, I believe, one of the things I believe is in consistency in terms of penalties, in terms of punishment, consistency. You have an NFL who suspended Tom Brady 4 games for overinflating footballs, and suspended Ray Rice. What was it? 1 game before he was cut. 1 game for beating his wife to a pulp in an elevator, and they wouldn't have charged him, or they wouldn't have even given him that 1 game. But then the video came out afterward, and then the league had egg on their face. So now, and I don't know all the details of this Josh Brown situation, but I do know that it's abuse of his wife, and he has not been suspended.
What I heard on the radio today is at the Pro Bowl, they had to put his wife and his one child, I'm not sure how many kids he has, in an undisclosed location, so he didn't know where they were at. That's how bad it got at the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and then you wonder why the NFL's ratings are going down.
Yeah.
And one other note, the Chicago Cubs are 1 game away from from making the World Series for the first time since 1945, I believe. I think that was the last year they were in the series.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, they haven't won since 1908. So if the Cubs win one more game, and Game 6 will be tough.
Hey, all they have to do is beat Clayton Kershaw. That's
Yeah,
easy.
I was gonna say Clayton Kershaw is on full rest is going to be sort of tough to beat. But if they do it, then you're going to have a team that hasn't won a World Series since 1948 against a team that hasn't won since 1908, One has the manager of the Red Sox who broke the streak. One has the general manager of the Red Sox who broke the streak. Both of them have ex-New York Yankee relief pitchers. I mean, it's bizarre. It will
Yeah,
be
somebody will have to win. That's my contention there. But the thing is, if the Cubs lose to Kershaw tomorrow, the
yes.
pressure is back on them.
Oh my God, game 7 at Wrigley. Now, was when they lost in 03, the Bartman series. I think Game 7 was at Wrigley too, and I think they folded up in that
Yeah,
game.
I think that was the case. I think you're right.
Yeah, and Moises Alou has earned a bad place in my heart forever for the reaction to the Bartman play, because you know what, that poor guy. I mean, okay, don't reach over, don't do, but if Moises Alou had just been, okay about it, the vitriol wouldn't have been as bad. But he acted like a petulant child, jumped up and down, and then everybody focused on this guy, this weird guy wearing earmuffs and headphones.
It's just the way it is for the Cubs, I mean, there was the Black Cat in '69. That was at Shea, though. So if we see a Black Cat at Wrigley, somebody brought it in.
And just for your own edification, Bryant Gumbel was on Michael Kay's show on Yes yesterday, and he's a monstrous Cub fan, and he proclaimed loudly that the '69 Cubs were. I think he said they were the best team to never win a World Series, or they were so much better than the '69 Mets that it was an embarrassment. Yeah, exactly. So, okay.
I will say this too. I feel bad for Bob Newhart because he posted a picture with his grandson the other day when they were getting their, what's beat like 5-0, and he looked kind of sad. And then before the series began, he had that big W, flag, and he's like, "I'm getting too old for this crap. Please win." And it's true. People have gone a lifetime.
Well, and it's funny. It's funny how like many celebrities you're seeing in the crowd at Wrigley. Like I remember for the game that the first game, you saw Eddie Vedder, who's apparently a big Cub fan, John Cusack, Bill Murray, obviously. So it's like it seems that there is going to be a pilgrimage.
It'll be everybody against LeBron. That's how it'll be.
Great. All right, let's start the show. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, October 21st, 2016.
I'm Russ Cohen. That's all you get.
I'm Michael Agello. Ackland will be here in a moment, and this is the Hockeybuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. We had a full slate of games in the NHL last night, and let's start with one I was watching. And Russ, I mean, I know that we've talked on the show, and I talked to you about this, about the fact that and you thought that the Leafs would come out of the gate shot out of a cannon because of the the emotion and the vim and vigor.
Well, we thought that Matthews would, so we were right about that part. But we did think the Leafs would be better. There's no question.
Yeah, and I was not down on them. I don't want to be the Debbie Downer here. But I'm looking at this team realistically, and if you look at now, they've played 4 games. They're 1-1-2. Which is, not terrible, but the way those 2 overtime losses, they lost 5-4 in Ottawa after Matthews scores 4 goals against a team that can't play defense. They're up 4-0 against Winnipeg and lose 5-4 in overtime with Laine, making his early case for the Calder.
Yeah.
And then last night, they played well. Jonas Enroth, who was the backup to Frederik Andersen, played well. It was 2-1 in the third period. Eric Stahl, Zach Delpy ties it. Eric Stahl wins it. Eric Stahl always seems to kill the Leafs.
Yeah.
But Minnesota is not. I mean, to me, Minnesota is not a great team, and Toronto was a very young team. So these are the types of games that until everybody gets on the same page as Mike Babcock, they're going to lose.
Yeah, it's the defense has a hard time holding leads, and I don't know what they can do with the current people they have, with the players they have, to sort of fix that. The only thing I've thought of that could possibly fix it, but it definitely would affect their offense, is just to ask the forwards to sort of make up the slack. And, that could be why Brandon Prust is still hanging around, because there was a time where he was a terrific defensive forward. If they sort of inserted him in that role, if his skating's a little better, maybe he could plug up a few gaps that way. And that's got to be the thinking. They're not looking at him for goals, and they're not even for agitation at this point. I'm not sure they're looking at him for. It must be for the defense.
Well, possibly, and I think also there is an aspect there where they want to make sure that their young kids do not get pushed around, and Brandon Prust will stick up for teammates. I think he has that reputation, and I think he would do that. But the problem with this team right now, and I think it will be a problem ongoing throughout the season, and maybe Lou Lamoriello can address part of it during the year and maybe more of it during the offseason, is their blue line. Now, they played Martin Marincin over 24 minutes against Winnipeg on the top pairing with Morgan Rielly. He was
desperation.
He was -2, and there was a goal that the first goal that Line A scored was in front of the net. He was allowed to basically pirouette, do a turnaround, and a wrist shot that beat Anderson. And Marincin was within a foot of him and did not touch him. And this is a guy who's 6'4".
Yeah.
He may not be the biggest, thickest guy in the world, but he's got to tie up a player. He's got to impose his physical will on the player and prevent him.
You could blame Anderson on that too. He really did nothing to cover the top corner. Like, he didn't come out for the angle or anything.
I mean, there is right criticism of Anderson right now I think he's been going down early. And the book on him, I think, is shoot high and maybe even shoot sticks.
Well, shoot high is like on a lot of guys. I think the issue here is, and this is what made it hard to sort of see how good Anderson was.
Yeah.
Listen, he was playing in front of a pretty elite defense in Anaheim.
Yes.
And now he's not. And so there's definitely an adjustment period for that. And we don't know. Here's the thing. In the old days, there were these goalies that, even without defense, could stop shot after shot after shot. But now everybody is such a sniper, or at least can really pick the corners, whether they're a 20-goal guy or a 5-goal guy, that now it's hard to have a goalie that could just get outshot and really overcome a bad defense. We really don't see that as much anymore. Goalies still can steal games, but when they steal games, it's pretty rare.
Yeah. And, to further the point, Marincin was benched. I heard a report he was injured. I heard a report he was just scratched. They put in Roman Polak. Roman Polak is not a great defender, but a veteran guy. He scores a goal. But the minutes go to Connor Carrick, who I like as a player, but he's, I believe, 22 years old, and he's a smaller guy. He's not a top pairing guy. He's maybe a second pairing, or more likely a bottom pairing guy, and he played 23, close to 24 minutes. You cannot do that. It's just not going to work.
They're in a spot. And look, Zaitsev, I told you there'd be an adjustment period, and I like him. Yeah, there's a lot to like.
He's playing well. I mean, I think eventually, like, if they don't go out and make a trade for a Trouba or a Fowler or somebody like that, I think that eventually what's going to happen is putting Rielly and Trouba together. But then you're sort of putting all your eggs in one basket. Then your number 2 pairing is probably Jake Gardner and Connor Carrick.
But that's how it is for teams now. That's where I go back to why everybody's wondering, why is the scoring up? Well, if you look at the Leafs, even if they stack their defensemen, after 2, it gets a little weak.
Yeah.
If you look at a team like Winnipeg, if you stack their defensemen, after 4, it definitely gets weak. And after 3, it's a little compromised, but after 4, it's definitely, and then you start wondering, why can't teams hold leads? Why? And this is a big reason why.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, right now, you can't say it's a trend because most teams have played 4 or 5 games. You know,
it's a small sample.
It could slow down dramatically as teams sort of get used to things. But if what we talked about with Kevin yesterday, if the theme of the league is following the Pittsburgh model, which is mobile, fast defense, jumping into the play, then you're going to see offensive numbers go up, and that'll be entertaining. But I think it'll drive some coaches to drink.
It will, and the thing is, we didn't see it all year from Pittsburgh. I think that's an important thing that we all gloss over, too. That was literally for a half a season we saw that. And so we don't even know if it's really sustainable yet, even though everybody has jumped into it because they like what they've seen. It could easily revert back after 25 games. Teams start saying, okay, you know what? We don't like this model.
Yeah. Now, New Jersey and Boston, the Bruins win a 2-1 victory over the Devils. And Patrice Bergeron comes back and scores the game winner late in the third period, all the offense in the third period. I checked in on this game a little bit. But right now, if you look at the Bruins, the center of that team continues to be Marchand and Bergeron. And, I'm not slamming David Backes. I'm not saying Pasternak isn't a good player, but it seems like as goes Bergeron and Marchand, that then the Bruins follow. If they're playing well, they're going to win. If they're not, or if they're injured, then they're in trouble.
No doubt. But I think the Chara connection with Carlo is big too, because like we said, Chara may not be the same player he used to be, but he is really doing a lot to help bring along one of their good young defensemen, and that's helping solidify their defense. And something that Ty said a week or two ago is that, you know what, J.M. Lyles, we could say what we want about him, but he got on the scoreboard again yesterday too. He's always going to manage to creep in offensively, and that is a big help for the Bruins too. That was a good pickup.
Yeah, the funny thing is that John Michael Lyles, when the Leafs picked him up, and I think it was in 2011 or 2012. Hey, let me just finish this point, and we'll. When the Leafs picked up Lyles from Colorado, he was an effective defenseman on the power play. He could move the puck, and then he got concussed, and he was never the same. And then he was traded to Carolina for Tim Gleason, and it took a while for him to get back. But the year that his contract was up, he started to play like he did before the concussion. It took him a couple years, but now with Carolina and last year at the end of the season with Boston and now this year with Boston, he's been effective. He's in his mid-30s, but he's still an effective guy. And if you don't overuse him, he's a good veteran guy.
Yep.
Hey,
hello, how you guys doing?
Good.
we just reviewed the Devils, Bruins, and Leafs game, and we waited and held back the Flyers game for you.
Thank you.
And there was a tremendous outpouring on Facebook and Instagram about the Necco wafers you gave me. So many pluses and minuses. We couldn't even fill it. We would fill a whole show just trying to talk about it.
Really?
It's unbelievable, the response.
I have to check that out.
The pink ones are wintergreen.
I know people think they're Pepto-Bismol flavor.
No, one of them tastes like Palmolive. Like I'm not sure which one that is, but I've tasted the other day. It really reminded me of
But Mike also figured it out. The one that we said had the licorice kind of taste is anise, and you really don't have anise flavored candy, and that's what's so interesting.
It's true.
About
Like that's like a coffee flavor that you put in coffee or something, syrupy flavor.
Yeah, and anisette. Like it's an anisette.
Yeah, it's like an anisette. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's funny. I had no idea that would have such an outcrying. I got to check that out. That's pretty hilarious. That's awesome. I have some more. I
actually called Joe Yurden a noted candy jerk.
Oh, I take that proudly, very proudly indeed. Couldn't be happier about that. So yeah, I'm glad you saved the exciting and awesome Flyers game.
Always doing your favors.
It was not the greatest game ever played in the history of man by both teams. I thought it was pretty rough actually. I don't know, maybe is it me or was it just like covering the World Cup for 2 weeks where you're watching players at a really high level all the time?
I think that's a part of it.
I think that because I'm seeing more players fan on shots than I can ever remember. Like last night, and last night especially in that game, so many times a player just goes to shoot it and it just whiffs on it or gets very little of it or just basic passes.
Well, Shane Gostisbehere was asked about that, and he sort of sidestepped that, saying, well, I don't think they're playing me closer or anything's really changed, but it has. I mean, just that little bit of difference. And fanning doesn't always mean you miss a shot altogether. It just means you may not get also all of the wood, and that may be why he's hitting so many posts. I mean, because there is that slight adjustment.
Yeah, although he was hitting posts in the in the World Cup as well. He's a post hitter in general. But yeah, I think there are some positive things for the Flyers for last night for sure, and I thought some positive things for the Ducks. I mean, the Ducks actually killing off all those power plays. As much as you want to give the Flyers a hard time about that was an impressive job by the Ducks killing off.
It was. They have a good PK and they definitely are proud of it. But there is that point, and I did post a snarky tweet because it almost was like, Anaheim was like, yeah, we'll put you on the power play and we'll just demoralize you that way. And that's not their intent, but that is what happened.
Right. No, it is what happened. And it was interesting because Corey Perry's goal last night that tied it at 2
angry goal
was such an angry goal. Like it was literally like he comes out of the penalty box after taking another penalty they didn't think he took, comes down, gets a drop pass, and blows like a probably 108-mile-an-hour slap shot past Mason within 5 feet of him. Like literally just crazy. I mean, he just blasted a shot, and it was one of those no doubt about it in and out shots so fast because you could tell Corey Perry was pissed. He was really angry. And that was kind of a determining moment, I thought, because at that moment, there were certain players in the Ducks that just looked a lot better than players on the Flyers. It was interesting how that
it breathed new life into him at that point. Yeah. And I think it was Getzlaf who was literally just pushing Provorov backwards so Perry could move up in the play and get a much closer shot. He moved in a good 5 to 7 feet on that shot, and I think that was a 4-on-2. Like that was a bad change by the Flyers, and that is the problem sometimes when you have rookies is. And it was on the defense pairings. That was a bad defensive change, and it really hurt him.
It was, and Provorov, you played better, still making a few weird mistakes, rushing the puck. I think he's trying to do things a little too fast, is my theory. That he's the speed of the game is picked up, and he's trying to do things too quickly, and he's throwing simple passes. Like there was one instance during a power play where he just threw a puck out of the zone. Essentially, that was a simple pass to Streit at the point. He passed so hard and so quickly that Streit couldn't even react to it. And I think that is and I want to bring up the Provorov long stick theory that I was throwing around last night, Russ, because
I never found evidence of it. I'll have to be honest.
I have to check it out because I think he uses a much longer stick than he should. And he's probably used this stick all of his life. I don't know, but it's fascinating to me because when you watch Provorov handle the puck, his arm is up like this, like where a normal player would be like this, holding the stick. His arm is like this.
Yeah,
and you can see it, and it's very strange. And I know other guys who use long sticks, but he really, and quite often he's very awkward because he holds the puck. He's got this long stick and stick handles very close to his body.
Now that's definitely the way he holds it, and that's why I don't know if it's long or if it's just technique.
It's a strange look. Like it's not something like so many players in the NHL look the same, and he just doesn't. I mean, you guys like Gostisbehere who.
Well, a lot of defensemen want to have a stick that has length to it, but has a lie on the blade that they can stick handle close to their body.
Yeah.
So I mean, it might be something. I
think that's what he's doing, but what's happening? I think it's the kind of thing that's hurting him in the NHL right now, for whatever it's worth. It's the kind of thing that he is not able to battle for pucks in close against guys who are much faster than he's used to. I think that's I don't know. It seems to be affecting it. I might be totally wrong, but it really strikes me every time he carries the puck. And last night, Konechny looked like he was a little bit out of sorts. He was getting hit around a lot. I mean, that's a physical team, that Anaheim team. Well, they throw a lot of checks.
And that was the point I was trying to make, because I was flipping through a lot of games in between periods when not watching the Leaf game, because that's the one I was concentrating on. And the one thing I noticed, and Russ said this after the game last night, was the fact that Philadelphia's defense, at least half of their blue line, are not exactly physical guys. Streit, McDonald, Gostisbehere, they're all smaller defensemen, all based that they're the good aspect of their game is their mobility. And the fact that Anaheim is a big team, you're going to have a problem with, if you're the Flyers, if you come up against a big team and those big forwards muscle their way to the net and physically dominate their defense. And that's why I think it's going to be a couple years for that Flyers defense to get guys like Sanheim and other guys.
That's why Gudas is sort of like has to come in certain games.
Yes.
Yeah, you do need him at times. You really do. And they, and people were getting over Mason. I didn't think it was Mason's fault at all.
No, Mason did nothing wrong in that game.
I don't think that was him. And a lot of people were really ripping him today. But I didn't think that was.
They're just mad because they lost the home opener. That's where that's coming from.
It was a bad setup for home opener too. Like going into it, you knew it because you had coming off a road trip of 3 games. 2 nights ago in Chicago, very emotional, like battle back game that they lost, and then coming against Anaheim, who hadn't won yet. Who was desperate for a win. Like Anaheim needed this win very, very badly.
I did like the uniforms, though. I have to say, I like the gold on the uniforms.
You like them?
Yeah, I thought they were pretty good.
Maybe they look better on TV. Live,
Yeah,
I didn't like
it is
them.
a TV thing.
Live, I didn't like them, at least because remember where the press box is really high up, and honestly, the numbers were
It's
completely
harder to
illegible.
read the numbers. It is.
Yeah, I mean, very illegible to me. Like I could not read the numbers at all. I was, just, and I was sitting next to the guy from KYW, and I was talking to him about it, and we were just joking about it. Like, I really have no idea if that's God's despair or Strike. I'm trying my best. It's so crazy because my eyes aren't the greatest, I guess, but my goodness,
that's nothing compared to those 3D uniforms they had some years back. I remember watching them on TV, and I could not make out the numbers on television.
Yeah, those were a lot worse, but these were, I mean, they were okay. They look good on fans, like when you see people wearing them, they look good. They're the kind of jersey you would want to own. But I don't think, sometimes that doesn't necessarily equate into the kind of jersey that works well in the arena.
I think that's fair.
Like a lot of the dark jerseys, are the same way. And I thought that was kind of interesting about the Team North America jerseys, like, the McDavid one I had back there. They were, they look good on, and they look good in the arena too. They look good. They look good live too.
They look better. To me, those looked better live than they did when I saw them just, in an ad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we talk about the fact that the Edmonton Oilers?
Well, hang on. We got 2 more points. Hold it, Edmonton. So one thing about the Flyers game that I found interesting was when I interviewed Ryan Garbutt after the game, he said that was the 4th game that they had that was a season opener. And
oh, wow.
And if you think about that, that's kind of an oddity because And so I asked him if that's a problem waiting that extra 20 minutes. And he said, no, teams have been getting good about it. It's gotten a little faster, and it is for both teams. But I could also tell under the surface that he's sort of happy that that's over, because when you want to play, and you don't want to have to wait for these ceremonies. And so that is a little bit of an adjustment for players when they're on the road, especially.
Well, also the fact that teams get worked up for their openers. So it's like you're facing a team that's even more jacked up than they normally would be rather than on a Tuesday night in the middle of November.
Although I think that, the Flyers did a good job at keeping it short, but they did. But I felt like they actually kept it too short if possible. It felt like they rushed it. No, it felt like they should have started earlier and just not rushed it. Like, to me, they were rushing it. There was a lot. They went through a very interesting eulogy of sorts of every person who's ever been involved with the Flyers that is no longer alive. Yeah. And it was pretty intense. It was. I didn't know Andre Lomakin died. Like, what the heck? Certain guys I never did. Like, I was watching this and like, holy cow, Miroslav Dvorak's dead. Like, there were certain players that I was watching this. I was like, that's very interesting. Obviously, guys like Peter Zezel and players like that. And it was one of those things where people, cheered when they recognized the person. Most of the players, most people weren't recognizable.
I will tell you the most surprising picture, and this is one I've been covering this team now religiously for 10 years, 11 years, and I've known it my whole life. And I'd never seen a picture of Jacques Plante as a Flyer. And now he was a consultant.
Right, he was a goalie coach.
Well, they didn't even say goalie coach. They just said consultant.
Yeah.
Look it up online. And
do you know when he was a goalie coach for them?
With Bernie.
Okay, that makes sense because Bernie was his goaltending partner in Toronto in the early 70s.
But I'm just telling you, we've seen a million ceremonies. We've
never seen Jacques Plante associated with.
We've never seen. There was like a what's Jacques Plante doing there?
Yeah, right. You go through some of them like Pat Quinn and certain that are really
those
that are awesome, and that you remember, and then players, like Tertishny, and guys who died very strangely and young. Yannick Dupre, like these players who were very, very sad.
But I did not expect to see Jacques Plante.
Yeah, but that was the best part though was definitely the video they did in the beginning on the ice of, and I posted it, and it's been out there. I'm sure I can show you guys in a little bit. I'll bring it up, but was the vintage video game hockey of the Flyers eras. Of course, to me that appeals, because guys, I collect video hockey games. So this
when they got to the NHL 94, I did have to divulge that I never once played the Flyers in NHL 94.
You never played the Flyers. Yeah, I don't think Eric did either. I was always the Flyers, and when we were living together in that house in Maple Shade, New Jersey. So yeah, but that was definitely it's a good memory for sure. And but this started out with the Flyers and the Russians, and that was a rod hockey game like we had talked about, and then it went into the Nintendo hockey, which is like which is the crazy, like that was just the fat guy, middle-sized guy, skinny guy hockey game, which is awesome.
Tell. To me, it looked like it was Blades of Steel, but I wasn't 100%.
They went to Blades of Steel after that.
They did.
Go from Nintendo to Blades of Steel. Yeah. And that was what was so cool about it. It was really that, and I put that out. I got tons of responses about that last night. It was so interesting, and I gave them credit for that. That was something that the Flyers. It was a cool thing that they did.
I only like video games that had fighting in it. When they got rid of the fighting,
yeah, that was it. That's funny because there's fighting in this one of this, Mike. Here, you're gonna watch. I'm gonna put this on here. So Harry, here we go.
But while you're doing that, the one thing I think fans are sort of getting too glued on is these 3D performances. Because like I thought, I put it up on my Facebook page, and just on Facebook. The Devils was very good because it was called like One with New Jersey, and they actually showed all of the counties in New Jersey. And I thought that's the first time I've ever seen the Devils sort of try and reach out to their state, even though they realize, like in my area, it's mainly Flyers country. And it wasn't as 3D last year, but the message was better. So I think if the message is good, mixed in with it, it makes it better. That's just me.
I'm with you on that. So here we go. I mean, so this is like, that's Nintendo hockey. Okay. That's that's the big guy, little guy.
Yeah.
And that's like, that was the thing that now, and they have this. No, this is Blades of Steel.
Yes.
That's Blades of Steel there. And that goes,
I wish they'd had the audio for that. Blades of Steel.
Blades of Steel. Yes. And then this is the fight. Remember this? Like the Blades of Steel fight.
Yes.
I mean, this is pretty awesome the way they did this. It really was. And then they had this. Now that's NHL
94,
right? Which you never saw from that angle because that was always like the side angle thing.
Right.
But it was pretty. I mean, I thought it was one of those things that I really appreciated. And of course, then it goes to like, the Sega games and like earlier. So gets into the modern stuff. But I thought that was really cool. And I missed the slot hockey thing before it because there is a slot hockey thing. So they have that too.
Slot hockey was great. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really, I don't know, and it was very, very well done. I mean, to the point where, even like the cynical of us up in the press box where we're saying that's pretty darn cool.
It is. I enjoyed that.
That was fun. But yeah, I think that, it's interesting the Flyers have not played an Eastern Conference team yet, but they've played 4 Western Conference teams.
Yeah.
Which is, fascinating. And
I guess notice the Western Conference teams have no problem wanting to fight because they realize this is it. They may see him once more, and there's no real retaliation. That's
yeah.
That's why this the media creation of the Laine Matthews rivalry from the game on Wednesday. It's not going to happen because Laine's play each other twice.
Right.
I don't think there'll be a McDavid Matthews rivalry because they play each other twice.
Right.
They really have to be like Crosby and Ovechkin, where they play each other 4 or 5 times a year and have a genuine dislike for each other.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's.
I have one more thought, and then we should get to the Oilers. So Mike can make his point. My other thought is that was a game where Travis Konechny got pushed around a tremendous amount, and that is where, even though he has 4 points, you have to wonder: are teams going to start using that now as a strategy? Because he did have 2 shots on goal, but he was a minus, and he wasn't a factor, and his line was not a factor. As a result, Voracek on his own was a factor, and Couturier for a play or 2 on his own was a factor, but that line did not click like it had previously clicked, so you have to look at that.
Yeah. Provorov a -7 right now in the NHL.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. It's like we like the speed. We like the fact that smaller players are able to make an impact in the NHL. But we know that this league is cyclical, and we know that at a certain point, when small players get pushed around, you're going to start seeing it go back the other way, where they're going to be drafting players for size. I mean, they'll always want them to be fast, but the guys who are 6'5" and have reach or are more physical, they're going to still there's still going to be an advantage for those guys over a 5'9" guy who can fly around.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and with those guys, I mean, the thing about guys like Konechny, I mean, he's not small, but he's not big. He's in the middle there. He's not like Johnny Gaudreau. He's bigger than that, but he's slight. He doesn't seem to have a whole lot of weight to him.
Right.
and he
I mean,
gets
he's thicker than he was, and I know his strength is better. I just don't know if it's enough. But the other thing is too, Provorov's playing with Mark Streit. It is not the same as like Carlo playing with Zdeno Chara. You know what I mean? That's
I know.
not the same.
Right? No, and Streit struggled too. So and those two don't know how to play together yet. And and watching last night, how many times did you see Streit behind the net trying to do an outlet? And then and you'd have Provorov right to the left of him on the boards, basically waiting for a pass. This happened like 6 or 7 times. And Streit would wait a long time and Provorov would be there. And not once did Streit go to him. No. Every Streit would always go forward to, and so it's fascinating. There's I think that they'll get it together. I mean,
they will.
But let's get on to Edmonton. Yakupov gets his opener, gets a goal.
Well, I have to say this because I mean Yakupov got his second of the season, the only goal for St. Louis. Edmonton is now 4-1.
That's right.
But but
what's Ottawa? Continue.
Can I finish?
Yep. Go ahead.
Edmonton does a video presentation for Nail Yakupov.
I thought about that. I knew you were
going I'm waiting for Daryl Cates to produce a movie on the career of Taylor Hall. I mean, really? You just dumped this guy for absolutely nothing, and you
wouldn't give him the time of day.
Yeah, I was even more. I was even more.
Edmonton, you don't get the time of day or time on the ice, but you will get a tribute
right,
video.
I was even more over the top on Twitter last night. It says you basically threw away 4 years of this guy's career, and then you give him a video tribute.
They love their people up there. I mean, the fans love their Oilers. I mean, this is what it comes down to. And
Yakupov had a great quote too. He said, my whole family will be here except for my dog."
Yeah, that's awesome. He's a great kid. I mean, and they asked him
3 points. He's got 3 points in 5 games, and he's only averaging 10 to 12 minutes of ice time. Imagine if he was averaging 17 minutes.
Yeah, no, he's a good player. I mean, this is a great fit for him in this team. It's a great place for him to be. He's going to be set there. I think, and the Oilers, they continue to look well. And the Oilers look good, and they're not just getting scoring from only McDavid either, which is kind of encouraging for Oilers fans. I think they are getting scoring from all over the place. And their goaltending is getting a little bit better. Like they have had issues still. I'm not saying their goalie is definitely, killing it right now, but they are, they're good. I was surprised by that. I actually thought Taylor Hall deserved more of a of a video tribute than Yakupov. That's more like the Ottawa Senators doing it for Alexander Daig.
Well, that's why I said. I mean, I don't know how long the video tribute was, but I'm sure it was probably 30 seconds during a TV timeout. If they gave Nail Yakupov, who essentially his career in 4 years in Edmonton was a failure, they gave him a video presentation. They should be producing a Schindler's List length feature movie for Taylor Hall, a guy who finished in the top 10 in scoring. I mean,
right. Oh yeah. I mean, the funny thing about the interview he did with I can't remember his name in between periods. But it was one of these famous Canadian guys. Mike, what's his name?
Not Mark Spector.
His name is Mike something.
Mike Toth?
He looks like Garth. What's his name? I can't remember. Anyway, I can't think of who it is. But
I know who you're talking about with the
anyway, so he's interviewing him, and he asked him about the video tribute. Yeah. This is between the first and second period, and Neil's like, "Oh, it's really nice. I really appreciate the fans were always great here." And then they said, "So what's it feel like to score your first goal?" And now in the very next sentence, without even skipping a breath, "It's so nice to score against my old team. It's great to get it here. I'll tell you that much." It was really funny. Just the interview went from they gave me a video tribute, and thank God I scored on them and screwed them, all in one breath. That was awesome.
The big thing for this game, if you look at how the stat lines match up, 12 giveaways for both teams. 30 blocks for Edmonton. Imagine if there weren't 30 blocks for Edmonton because Talbot had to face 35 shots. This is something that I still think is going to be a problem for Edmonton to sustain during the year because that's an awful lot of shots. But they did win on faceoffs, 58%. So that was a big deal for them. But that's a lot of shots. I mean, we're talking about now at least 55 or 60 shots attempted in that game.
Yeah, at least. That was a fun game to watch. Those are two. I mean,
that's fun to watch. I would definitely tell you that.
Yeah, it gives you a sense of, and that was what was weird about the Ducks-Flyers game is that each team had 25 shots, which was strange because that we haven't seen games like that for the most part. That's more like a mid-season, old school Atlantic Division game or something like that. So Gretzky last night on Austin Matthews, you see this? This was pretty fun. On the Score Network, they were interviewing him, and he said he's about Austin Matthews, and he says, I'm thinking, okay, my 50 goals in 39 games is in jeopardy, and maybe 92 in a single season is in trouble.
Come on, Wayne, don't say that. I mean,
he's just having fun.
He's having fun with it. It's Wayne.
Wayne was interviewed by our friend Josh Rimmer last week, and he talked very favorably about Matthews and said that Matthews benefited from that pro year in Switzerland, and that was similar to him in the WHA when he played as a 17-year-old in Indianapolis and Edmonton, and playing against adults, even though they weren't NHL caliber, really helped him early in his career. And I buy that, and Matthews had a good game against Minnesota last night. But please do not say 50 goals in 39 games, because
that's your fear. That's your fear. He's just being nice. He's not jinxing you, I promise.
That's all he's doing.
You're not going to be jinxed by this. It's not happening. It's just he went on to say great things. He said it's hard to score in the NHL, Gretzky said. And it's really hard today with the goaltenders being as good as they are and the players as good as they are. So what he did was remarkable. Good for him. It's great for Toronto. What's more important about the rise of the extraordinary young talent is how they're respecting the game and how they treat people and how much enjoyment you can see they're having bringing to their clubs, how much fun they're having. So this is just Wayne saying good stuff about everybody.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yes.
Yeah, well, Gretzky's been very vocal lately. But it was and of course we were joking around in the press box that Matt Reed had matched Austin Matthews in this for 4 goals in the season, just seconds before Austin Matthews scored again last night.
Yeah.
If
you think about it,
yeah.
If you think about it, in Wayne's era, Austin Matthews is the closest thing to Mario Lemieux that was like the only guy who existed like that in Wayne's era. But now there's a lot of guys that exist that are close to this. Matthews is better than him, but the model of that player is so much different.
But yeah, and the thing is, physically and in terms of his vision, McDavid is more closer to Gretzky in terms of how he plays. But you really don't hear Wayne comparing McDavid to him, because McDavid's in Edmonton. He's now part of the.
He doesn't want to put that on him.
Right, exactly. But he is.
He's willing to put it on Matthews. It is a conspiracy, Mr. Trump. I think.
Well, again, I was at a Wayne Gretzky event where he said he would love to have played for Toronto, and they did trade for him, and it didn't happen. Like, they were trying. Toronto was desperately trying to trade for him, but the Rangers got him instead.
No. I know that. I know that story because he's actually talked about it, and Bill Waters talked about it in an interview that I had. The Leafs were going through their budget process at that point. They were trying to build Air Canada Center, and they were cutting payroll. And at that time, Gretzky had been traded from LA to St. Louis, and he was going to be a UFA, and he wanted around $5 million a year from the Leafs. The Leafs really couldn't afford to pay him and Gilmore and Sundin, so he got the $5 million out of the Rangers. And if you look at his career after that, he basically went downhill. So
he's still, even downhill for Wayne Gretzky. His last year, I try and tell people, even with a horrible neck, he had 60-something assists.
Right.
Yeah. And and that all that did was keep it from Toronto being blamed from going downhill. I mean, it would have been he went to the Maple Leafs and then he sucked, and everybody's that's what would have happened. It would have been completely a mess.
That's where everybody went to retire. I mean, Eric Lindros went to the Leafs in 2006. He was.
I know. I have an Eric Lindros jersey right over there. Yeah, I do. An Eric Lindros Maple Leafs jersey. So yep, I know. So if you're obsessing about PK Subban and Shea Weber, there's a website for you now, actually. If you're a Montreal Canadian fan who's worried about this, I love this site. This is great. Let me show you. I'll bring it up here. So just in case you're curious, at any point in time, you can go here to pksubantracker.com, and you will see this. This will tell you exactly what's happening between these two players all the time.
But it doesn't tell you the full story. It doesn't.
No, this is the full story, Russ. This is it. Statistics are everything. This is all there is, and I just think that's hilarious.
It is funny.
pksubantracker.com.
We need a light. What?
Yeah, maybe. I'll be back.
Uh-oh.
I'll be back.
Okay, just mute
PK
yourself.
Subban Tracker killed us.
It affected the show.
Well, okay, and in connection with the Canadians. Carey Price comes back last night. They win 5-2 over the Coyotes. I mean, Russ. Okay, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, I got sucked into the vortex that is the PK Subban tracker. I was completely just PKSubbantracker.com. That's right,
That'll teach you to go to the PK Subban tracker.
I'm never going there again. It scares me, and it's a scary place to be, somewhere in the middle reality between PK Subban and Shea Weber that I was stuck there. So yeah,
a restraining order against tracking PK Subban. There you go.
Hey, so when do we start up the draft simulator? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's do it.
I got it queued up.
Is it live?
Montreal won 5-2 last night with Carey Price in goal. They actually scored 5 goals, which is shocking.
I know they did score 5 goals, and they gave up a couple goals too. So
we could basically say unequivocally that team is 100% linked to Carey Price mentally and otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, but see, that's the thing. This is not a bulletin. I mean,
no, but here's the thing. Here's the difference, though. The Rangers showed that at the time that they were really a peak team, even with Cam Talbot, you got the same play. It's not the same with the Canadians, though. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, and okay, look at who scored last night. Emelin, Mitchell, Weber on the power play, Galchenyuk, Lakonen. So it was spread out.
Remember, when Galchenyuk scores, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Unless he's playing on the wing.
Right.
At center, it doesn't count. But what I'm saying is, like they did early in the year last year, if you remember, they were getting offense from the Bryan, from the Flynn's, from the Mitchell. Yes. You know, the third and fourth liners were scoring like crazy. I think Dale Weiss was scoring big when early in the year. But they weren't relying solely on Pacioretty and Subban. But when those guys stop scoring, because you can't depend on those third, fourth liners to score consistently, you need Pacioretty, Radulov, Plekanec to score. And that's the thing. I don't know whether those guys can pick up the slack when these guys stop scoring.
I think that's fair. I mean, but the question, the real question here that's going to come to play is is Carey Price going to be able to stay healthy? I mean, that's what it all comes down to, right? I mean, and I think that's the end. At the end of the day, I think scoring. Yeah. I mean, Carey Price is good enough that he's almost scoring them a goal or two a game in his own way. You know, he's keeping a goal or two out of the net. So, I mean, he does help them not have to score 50 or 60 goals a season.
Michel Therrien looks a lot better when Carey Price is in net.
Yeah, no, for sure, a lot better. And without him, that's not much going on. By the way, little rumor-based thing here quickly. There were a lot of scouts in Philadelphia last night watching Cam Fowler play. Cam Fowler looked really good, for sure. It's awkward to go to talk to somebody after you've been writing about them all the time to say that. But Cam Fowler, he's a strong, solid guy.
The first that I noticed, Las Vegas was out there scouting too.
Yeah, there was Vegas was in the house. I know, that was interesting.
Do you know how many teams there were, or any specific teams?
There was definitely a big Maple Leafs contingency.
I would say there was a good 7 or 8 teams.
Yeah, I'd say 7 or 8. The Maple Leafs were there. I know the Devils were there. The Rangers. I saw one person from the Rangers. I think I couldn't confirm it later. I was trying to find it if I could confirm it, but I thought I saw somebody from the Rangers who I at least I thought worked with Rangers. That's really a bad assessment of all that. Russ was trying to help me with that, but
they had the food cart blocking it. I couldn't see it.
I couldn't get to the cart. Couldn't get past the food cart.
The list on the wall was blocked.
And I think, but there was definitely a really big Maple Leafs contingency there. So,
well, Bob McKenzie reported last night that the gap between the Ducks offer and Hampus Lindholm's offer is $250,000
a year.
A year. So he wants to be paid a little more than Seth Jones and a little more than another recent contract that just happened. I can't remember who it was, but one of the defensemen who was a holdout, or one of the Ristolainen. And they're offering him less. So if that's the sticking point, I mean, eventually, $250,000 is going to get worked out. It'll be some sort of compromise.
Oh, it's almost $2 million though if it's 6 years.
Right. Well, yeah, $1.5 million. But the thing is, it's like, I mean, if Is Lindholm a better defenseman than Ristolainen? Is Lindholm a better defenseman than Seth Jones? I think they're all in the same area. So, maybe you want to get 5.4 and accept that and that as a compromise. But if he's holding out for a little more, Anaheim seems to be wanting to hold them to that 5.4 mark or a little below. And
here's what I think. I think he's better than Seth Jones, and he's equal to Ristolainen.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if he's better than Seth Jones, but maybe.
Well, the one point that McKenzie made, and it's a good one, is that a 6-year contract, which I think they're talking about, buys up 2 years of unrestricted free agency for Lindholm because he's a year older. It only bought up 1 year of Ristolainen. So that's a big thing. Usually when you're buying 2 years of UFA, you get paid a lot more because that's 2 years that you could be out there making over $6 million.
Here's why I think Lindholm's better. Last year he had 10 goals. Year before he had 7 goals. Year before he had 6 goals. He was a plus 29 3 years ago, a plus 25 2 years ago, a plus 7 last year. Even in that bad year, he was a plus 7. This guy is a tremendous player. I know everybody thinks Seth Jones should be better because he's bigger, faster, stronger. I don't think he's better.
Okay. That's your opinion. I don't agree with it.
It's okay.
I don't.
You don't have to.
We disagree. We're not.
I think I'd take Seth Jones over.
I think Seth Jones is a better athlete. I don't know if he's a better player.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, but I think it depends how Seth Jones develops. Like Seth Jones could really develop into a heck of a hockey.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you're still talking about Seth Jones developing, and Lindholm is developed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Douglas Murray has retired. Just out of curiosity, if anyone was curious.
But he retired very slowly.
Yes, his quote is, "It's over. There will be no more." That's
like when a tree falls. I get
it. Right, I get it.
Dale Weiss is going to have a hearing with the NHL for a hit on Corbinian Holzer last night. You were there. Did you see it?
Yeah, I did see it. I don't think it was that egregious. I don't think he's going to get time for it. He got a penalty in the game. Yeah,
I didn't think so. It would be very surprising if he got a suspension. I mean, he doesn't have a history of this stuff either. So, that would be very surprising if he did. Ovechkin scored his 90th game-winning goal last night. 750th goal.
But he doesn't have any cups or rings, so.
But that 90th game-winning goal ties him with Mike Gartner on second for the game-winning goal record, which is one away from tying Wayne Gretzky. So Ovechkin.
All right, but wait, the game-winning goal thing is a fluky record because it only came into existence in Wayne Gretzky's era, and I'm not even sure it was there at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
And now, because every game is resolved with a win, it counts overtime games. So
that's true. Yeah. That's true.
So it is a fluky stat.
Now, 750th goal for Jaromir
Jagr. Yeah, not Ovechkin. Sorry, Jagr. 750th goal.
And that's, I mean, I don't know how much longer he's going to play, if it's going to be just this year or another. I mean, but is 800 possible?
I want to ask Jagr, because I know he watches this show, if he remembers all 750. That's what I want to ask him.
He does watch the show. He is. I think he will keep playing until they kick him out. I don't think he's going to stop. I don't think he's going to keep going until
they take away the keys from the rink.
Someone's going to tell him, and I think that Florida just likes him so much, and they have this. They really they think he's almost like a mascot for them. Like he's almost, he's going to stick around. They're going to
a very old mascot.
Probably transition into some kind of strange, coach / play 3 minutes a game guy or something like that.
Hey, listen, he's got a restaurant. Remember, he's got a restaurant in the Czech Republic that he's got to keep going. So,
Yeah, but, he's been doing that for a long time. So, and we do sit here today with the Vancouver Canucks being the only team not without a loss, which is pretty interesting because none of us would have thought that was coming, even though they only led in one of.
I was the only one who thought they were half decent. You guys were like, forget it. They're horrible.
That's true. That's true. No, they're doing.
But it's early. It is early.
Oh, it is very early, but I still think that I'm impressed. There was a good game last night in the and finally I think to talk about the Pittsburgh the rematch of the Stanley Cup Finals that took place last night, which was a good game. The Sharks and the Penguins, and it was very similar to the Stanley Cup Finals in a lot of ways. That the Sharks got a lead, the Penguins came back and won the game. But it was it was definitely high intensity. I watched it late. Well, actually early this morning. I guess it was 1 a.m. sometime there. And it was really it had a lot of intensity to it. It was a real fun game.
Is Martin Jones as good this year as he was last year? Not yet. Not in my estimation.
No, not yet.
Well, I think that this is going to be a concern, and maybe it'll be addressed by Doug Wilson down the line. But Martin Jones is going to have all the weight on his shoulders. Their backup goaltender is Aaron Dell. Who the hell is Aaron Dell?
That's a good T-shirt. Who the hell is Aaron Dell?
I mean, his mother knows, but
yeah, maybe, but
maybe.
He gave him up for adoption, so maybe not.
I mean, right now, Martin Jones' save percentage is .887.
Patrick Marleau has 483 goals, which is pretty crazy because he could hit 50 this year, and he's tied now for 50th all time with Sergei Fedorov.
Crazy.
Well, when you mentioned Ovechkin and the 90th game-winning goal, I heard something a couple weeks ago, and I just sort of scoffed at it. He's got 527 career goals, and he's 31 years old. And somebody was trying to make the case that Ovechkin could catch Gretzky. I don't think so. I don't think there's a chance.
There's a chance, but it depends on a lot of things. I mean,
that would mean scoring 50 goals, 7 more seasons.
He could do it.
He could do it. I mean,
38. I don't.
He could do it.
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, he could play till he's 44. I mean, it doesn't even necessarily mean he's got to score 50 goals in 7 straight seasons. So.
Right.
I mean, look, if he plays as long as say Yager's playing, then he's gonna blow it out the water. He's gonna, but he's got a shot. He definitely has a shot.
I wouldn't count him out.
As does Austin Matthews. I really believe.
Stop. My goodness.
Austin Matthews is on his route to score. I know he's slowed down, but he's still at 80. He's still at an 89 or 92 goal pace right now. It's very impressive.
There you go. Wayne Gretzky had 894 career goals. So
right.
that is 367 goals that Ovechkin would have to catch.
But adjusting for the eras,
well, yeah, that's impressive.
I think this is really impressive. I think Ovechkin.
I'm not saying, but
it's almost like Ovechkin has like 700 goals. Like to me,
I'm taking the errors into account, and I think that makes what he has very impressive. But the fact that he still has 360 goals to get, and he's past the age of 30, it's not happening.
I mean, I know. But then the thing that Ovechkin has, that the record that Ovechkin has that no one can touch, is how many goals, and this isn't even a record they keep, but how many goals he has kept. He has scored more than any other player since he's entered the NHL, which is insane. Yeah. It's almost 200 goals. It's like there's a crazy number there of what he has scored. I think it's 150 goals.
Well, his durability is fantastic.
Yeah. His durability but just to be, so that shows you the era he's playing in. He is just that much better than everybody else at scoring goals.
Yeah.
And that's impressive. I mean, that's an incredible thing. All the time we have for today, folks. Oh, wait, before we go, we do have one more thing here. I forgot about this. Sorry. I hate to do this to you guys, but I wanted to bring this up for sure. Here we go. Here, we're going to run the NHL Lottery Simulator.
Oh, my God.
All right, ready? We got right now the Columbus Blue Jackets with the best chance to win this. According to this, here we go. And the winner is the Nashville Predators. All right, Nashville.
I'm ending the show right there.
I want to officially say that this is the first running of the NHL Lottery Simulator by any show anywhere.
That's right.
And that's why we're the best, guys.
We're always breaking ground.
Yep. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Talk to you soon.